All right. Let's see here. Are you ready to read tonight, buddy? Hi, everyone. Yeah? Oh, my goodness. What's that face for? Let's get what is going on your blanket. All right. Let's do that. Let's get you cozy wozy. So, tonight, in addition to our Christmas stories, we're going to read the VeggieTales version of Silent Night. And I don't know. Oh, it does. Oh. Once it goes, it just goes. Okay. Oh gosh, does it just do the whole thing? Oh no, it just does the first verse. Okay. So, I'm not gonna sing it because we heard how well singing went the other night. And I don't feel like having 2 nights in a row of singing. And truth be told, didn't have any wine tonight, so don't have the liquid courage. So, there's that. All right.
I'll have to read.
Yeah? You want to sing it? That was really good. Maybe we will sing it then. Okay. Silent night, holy night. All is calm, all is bright. Round yon virgin mother and child, holy infant, so tender and mild. Why am I rubbing a foot? Sleep in heavenly peace. Sleep in heavenly peace. Silent night, holy night. Shepherds quake at the sight. Yeah. Glory streamed from heaven afar. Heavenly hosts sing Alleluia. Christ the Savior is born. Christ the Savior is born. Jesus, Lord at thy birth. Jesus, Lord at thy birth. Right? So that's our decided to be Christian. This one. So now, continuing on in our book, we're going to read Christmas Every Day by William Dean Howells. Once there was a little girl who liked Christmas so much that she wanted it to be Christmas every day of the year. This might be your mother. And as soon as Thanksgiving was over, she began to send postcards to Old Christmas Fairy to ask if she might have her wish. The old fairy never answered. So then she began to send her letters. The day before Christmas, she got a letter from the fairy saying she might have it Christmas every day for a year, and then they would see about having it longer. The little girl was a good deal excited already, preparing for the old-fashioned, once-a-year Christmas that was coming the next day. And perhaps the fairy's promise didn't make such an impression on her as it would have made at some other time. So she went to bed early, as to let Santa Claus have a chance at the stockings. In the morning, she was up the first of anybody and found hers all lumpy with packages of candy and oranges and rubber balls and all kinds of small presents. Then she waited around till the rest of the family were up, and she was the first to burst into the library when the doors were opened and look at the large presents laid out on the table. Books and boxes of stationery and dolls and little stoves, all skates and snow shovels, and photograph frames and boxes of watercolors and nougat and candied cherries and dollhouses and the big Christmas tree. lighted and standing in a wastebasket in the middle. She had a splendid Christmas all day. She ate so much candy that she did not want any breakfast. Then she went round giving the presents she had got for other people, and came home and ate turkey and cranberry for dinner, and plum pudding and nuts and raisins and oranges and more candy. And then she went out and went sledding, and came in with a stomachache. They had a light supper, and pretty early everybody went to bed, cross. The little girl slept very heavily, and she slept very late, but she was wakened at last by the other children dancing around her bed, with their stockings full of presents in their hands. "What is it?" said the little girl, and she rubbed her eyes. "Christmas, Christmas, Christmas!" they all shouted. "Nonsense! It was Christmas yesterday." Brothers and sisters just laughed. "We don't know about that. It's Christmas today, anyway." Then all at once it flashed on the little girl that the fairy was keeping her promise, and her year of Christmases was beginning. She was dreadfully sleepy, but she sprang up like a lark that had overeaten and gone to bed cross, and darted into the library. There it was again, books and boxes of stationery and the rest, and there was the Christmas tree blazing away, and the family picking out their presents, but looking pretty sleepy. Her father was perfectly puzzled, and her mother ready to cry. Her father said it seemed to him they had something just like this, like it the day before, but he supposed he must have dreamt it. Well, the next day it was just the same thing all over again, but everybody was getting crosser. The little girl began to get frightened, keeping the secret all to herself. She wanted to tell her mother, but she didn't dare to, and she was ashamed to ask the fairy to take back her gift. It seemed ungrateful, but she hardly knew how she could stand it for a whole year. So it went on, and it was Christmas on St. Valentine's Day and Washington's birthday, just the same as any day, and it didn't skip even the 1st of April, though everything was a trick that day, and that was a little relief. After a while, turkeys got to be about $1,000 apiece, and cranberries, well, they asked $10 apiece for cranberries. All the woods and orchards were cut down for Christmas trees, and after a while they had to make Christmas trees out of rags. But there were plenty of rags because people got so poor buying presents that they couldn't get any new clothes, and they just wore their old ones to tatters. Well, after it had gone on for 3 or 4 months, the little girl, whenever she came into the room in the morning and saw it's hard to do this one-handed, Dolly. Saw those great, ugly, lumpy stockings dangling out the fireplace, and the disgusting presents around everywhere, used to just sit down and burst out crying. In 6 months, she was perfectly exhausted. She couldn't even cry anymore. At the beginning of October, she was sitting down on dolls everywhere she found them, and by Thanksgiving, she was throwing her presents across the room. By that time, people didn't carry presents around nicely anymore. They flung them over the fence or through the window. And instead of taking great pains to write "For dear Papa," or Jimmy, or Jenny, or whoever it was, they used to write, "Take it, you horrid old thing," and then go and bang it against the front door. Nearly everybody had built barns to hold their presents, but pretty soon the barns overflowed. And then they used to let them lie out in the rain or anywhere. Sometimes the police used to come and tell people to shovel the presents off the sidewalk, or they would arrest them. Well, before Thanksgiving, it had leaked out who had caused all these Christmases. The little girl had suffered so much that she had talked about it in her sleep. And after that, hardly anybody would play with her. The very next day, the little girl began to send letters to the Christmas fairy to stop it, but it didn't do any good. So it went on till it came to the old once-a-year Christmas Eve. The little girl fell asleep, and when she woke up in the morning, she found that it wasn't Christmas at last, and wasn't ever going to be any more. Well, there was the greatest rejoicing all over the country. People met together everywhere and kissed and cried for joy. The city carts went around and gathered up all the candy and dumped them into the river. And the whole United States was one blaze of bonfires, where the children were burning up their gift books and presents of all kinds. They had the greatest time. The little girl went to thank the old fairy. because she had stopped it being Christmas, and she said she hoped the fairy would see that Christmas never, never came again. Then the fairy frowned and asked her if she was sure. This made the little girl think, and she said she'd be willing to have it Christmas about once in 1,000 years. And then she said 100, and then she said 10, and at last she got down to 1. The fairy said that was the good old way that had pleased people ever since Christmas began, and she was agreed. Then the little girl said, "What's your shoes made of?" The fairy said, "Leather." And the little girl said, "Bargains done forever," and skipped off and hippity hopped the way home. She was just so glad. The hell? What? Why does it matter what her shoes are made of? That's a. I don't. Okay. Whatever. Jimmy Scarecrow's Christmas by Mary E. Wilkins Freeman. Jimmy Scarecrow led a sad life in the winter. He liked to be useful, and in winter he was absolutely of no use at all. Every morning when the wintry sun peered across the dry grain stubble, Jimmy felt sad, but at Christmas time his heart nearly broke. On Christmas Eve, Santa Claus came in his sleigh, heaped high with presents. He was on his way to the farmhouse where Betsy lived with her Aunt Hannah. Santa Claus had a large doll baby for her on his arm, tucked up against the fur collar of his coat. When poor Jimmy Scarecrow saw him, his heart gave a great leap. "Santa Claus, please give me a little present. I was good all summer and kept the crows out of the grain," pleaded this poor Scarecrow. Santa Claus passed by. The next morning Betsy sat at the window, holding her doll baby, and she looked out at Jimmy Scarecrow standing alone in the field amidst the grain stubble. "Oh, Aunt Hannah," she said. "Well," Aunt Hannah said. She was making a crazy patchwork quilt. "Did Santa Claus bring the Scarecrow a Christmas present?" "No, of course he didn't." "Why not?" "Because he's a scarecrow. Don't ask such silly questions." "I wouldn't like to be treated so if I was a scarecrow," said Betsy. It was snowing hard out of doors. The scarecrow's poor old coat got whiter and whiter. Aunt Hannah worked until the middle of the afternoon on her crazy quilt. Then she got up and spread it out over the sofa with an air of pride. "There," she said. "That's done. I've got one for every bed in the house, and I've given 4 away. I'd give this away if I knew of anyone that wanted it." Aunt Hannah put on her shawl and set out to visit her sister, who lived down the road. Half an hour after Aunt Hannah had gone, Betsy put her little red shawl over her head and ran across the field to Jimmy Scarecrow. She carried her new doll baby snuggled up under her shawl. "Merry Christmas," she said to Jimmy Scarecrow. "Wish you the same," said Jimmy. Betsy looked at the old hat fringed with icicles and the old snow-laden coat. "I've brought you a Christmas present," she said, and with that she tucked the doll baby inside Jimmy Scarecrow's old coat. "Thank you," said Jimmy Scarecrow. "You're welcome," she said. "Keep her under your coat so the snow won't wet her." "Yes, I will," said Jimmy Scarecrow. "Don't you feel cold in that summer coat?" asked Betsy. "If I had a little exercise, I should be warm," he replied. But he shivered, and the wind whistled through his rags. "You wait a minute," said Betsy, and then she was off across the field. Jimmy Scarecrow stood in the grain stubble, and soon Betsy was back again with Aunt Hannah's crazy quilt. "Here," she said, "here is something to keep you warm," and she folded the crazy quilt around the Scarecrow. "Aunt Hannah wants to give it away anyway, if anybody wants it," she said. "Goodbye." And with that she ran across the field and left Jimmy Scarecrow alone with that crazy quilt and the doll baby. Jimmy Scarecrow had never felt so happy in his life as he did for an hour or so. But after that the snow began to turn to rain, and the crazy quilt was soaked through and through. And not only that, but so was his coat and the poor doll baby. Suddenly he again heard Santa Claus's sleigh bells. "Santa Claus! Dear Santa Claus!" he cried Jimmy Scarecrow. And this time Santa Claus heard him. "Who's there?" Santa Claus shouted out of the darkness. "Jimmy Scarecrow." Santa Claus got out of his sleigh. "Have you been standing here ever since grain was ripe?" he asked pityingly, and Jimmy replied that he had. What's that over your shoulders? Santa Claus continued. It's a crazy quilt. And what's that you're holding under your coat? The doll baby that Betsy gave to me. I'm afraid it's dead. Poor Jimmy Scarecrow sobbed. Nonsense, cried Santa Claus. Let me see it. And with that, he pulled the doll baby out from under the Scarecrow's coat and patted its back, and it began to cry. It's all right, said Santa Claus. Now get into the sleigh, Jimmy Scarecrow, and come with me to the North Pole, he cried. Please, how long shall I stay? Asked Jimmy Scarecrow. Why, you are going to live with me, replied Santa Claus. I've been looking for a person like you for a long time. Are there any crows to scare away at the North Pole? Jimmy Scarecrow asked. No, answered Santa Claus. I want you to scare away Arctic explorers from the North Pole. That is much more important than scaring away crows from grain. Come along, I am in a hurry. I will go on two conditions, said Jimmy. First, I want to make a present for Aunt Hannah and Betsy next Christmas. You shall make them any present you choose. What else? I want some way provided to scare the crows out of the grain next summer, said Jimmy Scarecrow. That is easily managed, said Santa Claus. Just wait a minute. Santa went with his lantern close to one of the fence posts and wrote these words up in the crow language. Notice to crows. Whichever crow shall hop or fly into the field during the absence of Jimmy Scarecrow shall be instantly turned snow white and be ever after a disgrace to his whole race, per order of Santa Claus. The grain will be safe now, said Santa Claus. Get in. Jimmy got into the sleigh, and they flew away over the fields. The next morning, there was much surprise at the farmhouse when Aunt Hannah and Betsy looked out of the window. The Scarecrow's gone, the crazy quilt, and the doll baby with him. We'll have to have another Scarecrow next summer, said Aunt Hannah. The next summer, there was no need of Scarecrow, for not a single grain was stolen by a crow. It is a great mystery to me why the crows don't come into our grain fields, said Aunt Hannah. But she had a still greater mystery to solve when Christmas came round again. She and Betsy each found a strange present in the sitting room on Christmas morning. Aunt Hannah's present was her old crazy quilt, remodeled with every piece cut square and true, and matched exactly to its neighbor. Betsy's present was her doll baby of the Christmas before, but the doll was a year older. She had grown an inch and could walk and say "Mama" and "How do you do?" Neither Aunt Hannah nor Betsy knew that the quilt and the doll were Jimmy Scarecrow's Christmas presents to them. One more story. How Johnny Cricket Saw Santa Claus. An extract from Friendly Fairies by John Gruel. When the first frost came and coated the leaves with its film of sparkles, Mama Cricket, Papa Cricket, Johnny Cricket, and Grandpa Cricket decided it was time to move into their winter home. Papa, Mama, and Grandpa Cricket carried all the heavy cricket furniture, while Jimmy Cricket carried the lighter things, such as the family portraits, looking glasses, knives, and forks and spoons, and his own little violin. Aunt Katy Did wheeled Johnny's little sister Teeny into the cricket baby stroller, and helped Mama Cricket lay the rugs and wash the stonework. For the Cricket's winter home was in the chimney of a big old-fashioned house, and the walls were very dusty, and everything was topsy-turvy. But Mama Cricket and Aunt Katy Did soon had everything in tip-top order, and the winter home was just as clean and neat as the summer home out under the rose bush had been. There the Cricket family lived happily, and everything was just as cozy as any little bug would care to have. On cold nights, the people who owned the great big old-fashioned house always made a fire in the fireplace. The walls of the Cricket's winter home were nice and warm. Little Teeny Cricket could play on the floor in her bare feet without fear of catching cold and getting the cricket croak. I don't know what croak is. There was one crack in the walls of the Cricket's winter home that opened right into the fireplace, so the light from the fire always lit up the Cricket's living room. Papa Cricket could read the Bugville news, while Johnny Cricket fiddled all the least popular bug songs, and Mama Cricket rocked and sang to Tiny Cricket. One night, though, the people who owned the great big old-fashioned house did not have a fire in the fireplace. Little Teeny Cricket was bundled up in her warm covers and rocked to sleep. and all the Cricket family went to bed in the dark. Johnny Cricket had just dozed into dreamland when he was awakened by something pounding him so loudly. Oh, excuse me. He slipped out of bed and into his two little red boots and felt his way to the crack in the living room wall. Johnny heard loud voices and merry peals of laughter. So he crawled through the crack and looked out into the fireplace. There in front of the fireplace he saw 4 pink feet and 2 laughing faces way above, while just a couple of cricket hops from Johnny's nose was a great big man. Then there were a few more squeals of laughter, and the 4 pink feet pitter-pattered across the floor, and Johnny could see the owners hop into a snow-white bed. Johnny saw the man walk to the lamp and turn the light down low, then leave the great big room. Johnny Cricket jumped out of the crack into the fireplace and ran out into the great big room. The light from the lamp was too dim for him to make out the objects hanging from the mantel above the fireplace. All he could see were 4 long black things. So Johnny Cricket climbed up the bricks at the side of the fireplace until he came to the mantel shelf. Then he ran along the shelf and looked over. He saw that the black things were stockings. Johnny began to wish that he had stopped to put on his stockings, for he had bare feet. He had removed his little red boots when he decided to climb up the side of the fireplace, and now his little feet were very cold. Yeah, baby, because you've got them on. Look, we talked about this, right? Right. So, no, not there. But if you go over here and you upgrade your things, then you'll be able to get more tickets. So Johnny Cricket started to climb over the mantel shelf and down the side of the fireplace. And then suddenly there came a great puff of wind down the chimney that made the stockings swing away out into the room, and snowflakes fluttered clear across the room. There was a tiny tinkle from a bell, and just as Johnny hopped behind the clock, he saw a boot stick out of the fireplace. Then Johnny Cricket's little bug heart went pitty-pat. It sounded as if it would run or race with the ticking of the clock. From his hiding place, Johnny Cricket heard 1 or 2 chuckles, and something rattled. He crept along the edge of the clock, and holding the 2 feelers over his back, looked from his hiding place. Excuse me. At first all he could see were 2 hands filling the stockings with rattly things. But when the hands went down below the mantel for some more rattly things, Johnny Cricket saw a big, round, smiling face, all fringed with snow-white whiskers. Well, you did all your dailies. Johnny drew back into the shadow of the clock and stayed there until all had grown quiet. Then he slipped from behind the clock and climbed down the side of the fireplace as fast as he could. Johnny Cricket was too cold to stop and put on his little red boots, but scrambled through the crack in the fireplace and hopped into bed. In the morning, Mama Cricket had a hard time getting Johnny out of bed. He yawned and stretched, put on 1 stocking, rubbed his eyes, yawned, put on another stocking, and yawned again. He was still very sleepy and could hardly keep his eyes open as he reached for his little red boots. Johnny's toes struck something hard. He yawned, rubbed his eyes, and looked into the boot. Yes, there was something in Johnny Cricket's boot. He picked up the other boot. It too had something in it. It was candy. Ow! With a loud cry for such a little cricket, Johnny rushed to the kitchen and showed Mama Cricket. And then Johnny Cricket told Mama Cricket all about his exciting adventure the night before. Mama Cricket called Papa Cricket, and they both had a laugh when Johnny told them how startled he had been at the old man with the white whiskers who filled the stockings in front of the fireplace. Why, Johnny, said Papa and Mama Cricket. Don't you know? That was Santa Claus. We have watched him every Christmas for the last 4 years fill stockings. Santa Claus saw your little red boots and filled them with candy too. If you crawl through the crack into the fireplace, you will see the children of the people who own this big house playing with all the presents that Santa Claus left them. And sure enough, it was so. All right. So I think that's good for tonight. What do you think, buddy? You like your Christmas stories? Maybe. All right. Well, I think we're doing good. It's time to get ready for bed because you're not going, but Mama's got to go pick up her ornaments tomorrow from Hallmark. Because if you guys don't know, Hallmark does their ornament debut in July, and tomorrow's the big day when all of the ornaments, well, not all of them, but a large chunk of them will be revealed. And then I believe the next reveal is in October and then December. But most of the ones we pre-ordered are coming tomorrow, and I'm very excited. I love Christmas. And so my plan is to go get them, and then I'm going to film an unboxing video of the ornaments and share that with all you guys. I'm very excited about that. Yeah. It's Christmas. Right, buddy? You ready to see what ornaments Mama brings home? See what this year's Santa and reindeer are? That should be interesting. Yeah. So, we will see you tomorrow, and keep an eye out for the ornament unboxing video, which will go up at some point tomorrow. I'm going to see if I can call on my husband to be in the video with me, because we like to look through the ornaments together, and but he's not big on looking at himself in pictures, so we'll see if I can get him to be on a video with me. All right, guys, we will see you tomorrow. Have a good night.